This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back. Craig Quaglia joining us. Yes, our myofascial trigger point therapist and, of course, extraordinaire. He has over 30-something years experience in helping so many, currently in the Forest Park, Illinois area, but really world-renowned for his massage therapy and all he does in the Chicago area. So first and foremost, welcome back to the show. Great to see you again. How's everything?
Everything's great. Chicago's great. We're all doing fine. We're
I
going
want
to
to hear
start
about
off
the marathon.
we're going to start off with the update with that. So,
Good. Well, for those new timers who don't know you yet, tell us a little bit about the work you do, and we'll
okay.
jump right into that. Okay. Thank you.
So my name's CraigQuagliaTriggerPointExpert. I'm licensed massage therapist, myofascial trigger point therapist. I have 5 years instructor, 3 clinics, worked in 6. Mostly centered around chronic pain, people who are having life-changing pain. The approach is non-drug. It centers on listening to our patients, really getting down into what's going on with them. Most of the time, they come as a result of going through the system or can't get into the system for one reason or another. And I start working and I meet them where they're at that point. Usually they're frustrated and certainly they need some validation. So having said all that, we're going to get on to some really good and fun things today. Okay?
Perfect.
All right.
I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead. What do we have?
So let's talk about the Chicago Marathon.
Yes.
World class, had a happy ending. 53,000 people showed up, 15,000 from other countries in the world. The 1 million people came out to support and cheer. Big event, great day. Everybody did well. Mm-hmm. So the reason I'm focused on it is I've had several people running in it at the time, but one particular we talked about was Robin, who is a PT, have been training for the 16 weeks, did everything right, came up short on Tuesday or the weekend before the race with hip pain. So bad that by Tuesday, when she called in to let me know she needed help, she couldn't run more than 2 miles. This is a 26-mile marathon, so 2 miles isn't going to cut it. We've worked together before, and this goes back to our conversations about synergy and working with other people from other modalities and then working together. So we brought her in on Tuesday, did an assessment, did a trigger point clean out of the entire hip, all the way down to the knee. The good thing about it, it was Tuesday. It gave us time to see what the results were going to be. And if we had to make any changes or do an additional session, we had time to do that. So on Wednesday, she rested. On Thursday, she ran. We talked Thursday afternoon. She had a little bit of a problem going on, and we decided to bring her on Friday. Did the whole thing again on Friday. She rested on Saturday. On Sunday, she ran the race. No pain, okay? So the bottom line is she knew all the right things to do. And what she said when I reached out to her on Sunday, later in the day, no pain in the ASIS, which is another way of saying the anterior superior iliac spine of the hip during the whole race. Someone knows what they're doing. Thank you for your help, for your work, and we accomplished the goal. So even though I'm not running the race, I vicariously live through the people I work with, whether they're in the Olympics, whether they're high jumpers, all that kind of story. So the moral of this story is this is a person who recognized she had musculoskeletal problems. She has the background, obviously being a PT. She knew when to take action, and she didn't allow it to stop her from doing the things she's very passionate about. Yeah. So one of the things people ask me is all the time is, why I'm so lit up about this and why I got involved. I've spoken about having migraine headaches
Mm-hmm.
personally and finding that as being an answer for me, working with my girlfriend at that time or friend at that time who had PMS, and everybody was astonished that the symptoms went away and
Mm-hmm.
became manageable. Yeah, you know, having somebody not give you the stink eye for 2 weeks is usually a good thing. So
Yeah.
all right. So, but the really turning point came when I was researching all this was in a book called Sports Massage, and there was the opening part of the book starts out with a football player named Rocky Bleier. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Rocky Bleier was with the famous Pittsburgh Steeler team in the 70s.
Yeah.
But Rocky Bleier's story is really interesting because Rocky Bleier was drafted in 1968 by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Big deal. You know, it's his dream.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he gets drafted in 1969 to go off to Vietnam. All right.
Yeah.
And in the process of serving in Vietnam, he gets shot in the leg. And then there's a grenade thrown that explodes near him that damages his foot to the point that when they take him into Tokyo to do the surgeries, they tell him point blank, you're never going to play football again.
Uh,
Dream come to an end. You know, he's sitting there in the hospital thinking his life is over. The owner
oh,
of the Steelers at that time,
wow.
Art Rooney, who drafted him, had heard what happened, sent him a motivating postcard and said, Rock, we need you. The team is doing terrible. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So from 1969 to 1970, he's in the hospital rehabbing. And then when he comes back in 1970, he rejoins the team determined to play again with the team. Now,
Wow.
this is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's life dream here. By 1971, he not only returned to the team, he is in the backfield playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers and would play for the next 10 years. He would set all kinds of records. He was playing on one of the more famous teams, historical teams of that time. Now, before he gets to the point where he finally has to quit in 1980, in 1978 and 77, he realizes he's slowing down. No big surprise. He had injuries. You're playing a sport that's abusive to your body. Things happen. You do slow down the aging process, all that together. So as it turns out, they had a renowned school of myofascial trigger point therapy courses going on in Pittsburgh, and he hooked up with somebody like me. And they, in the off season, he went ahead, they worked together. And when he came to spring training, he not only regained his power and speed, he was so fast, he was running into the linemen and had to retrain himself to time his timing again. That's amazing. So what
Yeah.
happened is he played for 2 more years and then got
Mm-hmm.
inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame and all that. Now think about that whole thing. There's any number of reasons that he could have not gotten to that point in his life, and they were all been legit. And you know, he could have just let it happen, or the point I'm making is it took everything. It took the surgery. It took his attitude. It took the rehab. It took his teammates. It took the
Yeah.
president of the team. You know, this is what we talk about with synergy, about helping people get across the line. So at that time, I was getting into myofascial. I was working with vets. I had vets whose legs have been blown off, and just
Yeah.
shrapnel still working out of their legs. And so I've always said this, and I'll say this again and again. These are the most courageous people in the world. They have to deal with depression. They have to deal with drugs. They have to deal with surgeries. They have to deal with pain. They have to deal with life-changing, of course, and then there's all the psychological issues. So that to me is probably one of the biggest reasons I jumped and really got involved. And that's why the core of my business is chronic pain people. But it's not only chronic pain. The runner, Robin, she's not necessarily chronic pain. She had a dream. She had sudden onset pain that we were able, because she responded to it quickly, to shut it down and help her get and do the things she wanted to do. So those are two stories that I really think are important, that shows two different parts of the scale. And then there are everything in between where you, as a therapist, you begin to deal with. I was talking to one of the therapists that I'm going to bring on, Mary B, and we were talking about yesterday about how we have people coming into our clinic with morphine pumps in their stomach. That's pretty bad pain that you have, and the fact that they're coming into our clinic and not going somewhere else is because somewhere else had failed up to that point. So, all right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. People have asked a lot of questions. One of the questions that said, "Why did you choose myofascial trigger point therapy?"
Mm-hmm.
I didn't choose it. It chose
Chose
me.
you.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I was open enough, and I was listening enough, and I was paying attention enough. And of course, it started with my own needs. All right. So the thing I like about it is it's my core therapy to go to, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not my only. It's part of making things work in a synergistic fashion. And more importantly, dealing with meeting the person and dealing with them where they're at and finding the answer. I think it was you that told me I got to go check this out in the website. He's relentless about finding a way to stop the pain. I thought
Yes.
I got to remember that more often.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time. At this time, Dr. Janet Travell, who had been John F. Kennedy's doctors, created the
Mm-hmm.
famous rocking chair, but also wrote two tremendous books about myofascial trigger point therapy. That was great. And I actually got to meet her and work with her at some point, or I should say, learn from her. The second was one of her proteges, Bonnie Pruden, who had written a bunch of books and had trained people across the country. So I was able to start interacting with people that were in the place I wanted to be, even though I wasn't there. So in Chicago, there is a very vibrant myofascial trigger point group here, thank God, even though it appears over around the rest of the country, it seems to be dropping off or diminishing. Seems to go through cycles. We're waiting to see. Okay, so question number one, what is your training experience with myofascial trigger point? These are questions that we recommend people ask when they're interviewing somebody. So you want to understand their qualifications and experience.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I took a test to become nationally certified. I took hours and hours, all kinds of seminars and classes
Mm-hmm.
to become the therapist. And when I get stuck, I come down to one question. What am I doing? What am I trying to be right about? And what do I need to go and find an answer to or learn? And thank God with the internet and this and that, even now with AI, it's amazingly easy for me. Where before I'd have to go off to a library or talk to somebody and it could take days. So that's nice. The other thing is my experience, 38 years going on 39 years.
Wow.
I've been in situations that would freak most people out. For instance, dealing with a Vietnam vet with no legs who's literally coming into your room on his hands and butt, moving himself out. I didn't blink an eye, and how you doing? Treated him like as if he was standing up in front of me. You learn how to do those things. You learn to sit down and be with people. You learn not to react negatively to something that a person may say or be doing at that time. So it's important. That's part of the experience. The other part was the emerging and the creating of the holistic model that we've been talking about through this. And we're going to talk a lot more about that because I'm going to have some people come in that I've been able to work who have doctors and other therapists who have been in those situations. And that's when we work really hard. It's really a tough situation, but I got to tell you, we have a blast when we know we've made an impact in somebody's life. And that's the fun. That's seeing them, the eyes, the light coming back up back into their eyes, a sense that this is going to get better, that they're going to be able to take control of their life on some level or in some way, and not necessarily be victimized by this. Question number 2, how do you identify and locate trigger points? I've talked about this before. So there's various ways to assess. Palpation I've talked about. That's a skill that takes time and lots and lots and lots and lots of bodies to master, because I can work on somebody like you. I could find your trigger points pretty easily versus somebody who might weigh 300 pounds. It's going to be a whole different experience and a whole different process in finding those things. May do range of motions, may do it on stretches, may just take your information and start working with what you tell me until I can get the superficial muscles to relax enough that I can actually get to the actual problem in the deeper layers. It's understanding anatomy and kinesiology, but it's always about hands-on experience. One of the great things that's happened, that's come my way in the last 12 years, is using a tool, a modality called shockwave, which is a treatment that uses high energy. Yeah, you thought the word shockwave.
Yeah. I'm like,
People always react. Forget the word shockwave. It's a sound wave. It's a high energy sound wave that stimulates healing in the injured tissues. And it is great at finding trigger points in places where I might miss them or that are deeper in the tissue that I can normally get at. And on top of it, it excels the entire healing process. It's one of my greatest tools to have working with people. And again, that goes back part of the synergy. Hands-on, shockwave, pulsating electromagnetic, another non-invasive medical treatment. Most of everything we do is non-medical, meaning we don't use drugs. Occasionally, during the palpation, if I'm working with a doctor, and part of the protocol is to do trigger points injections, because the trigger point's so active you can't get it to relax. They come in with a lidocaine mix. They inject the trigger point. It finally goes, oh, please take care of me. I've had it. I'm relaxing now. Go ahead and do what you need to do. So I have permission from the tissue at that point to go in. So with electromagnetic, it uses a low frequency electromagnetic fields that literally go down into the cell structures, facilitate healing of tissues and cells, and we're really simplifying the process. Great at locating and resolving trigger points and musculoskeletal pain. So these are things that really work really well in terms of really giving us an edge, giving me an edge, and helping me help you. Why I help you save money, and instead of taking 5, 6, 7 treatments, sometimes it's 2, 3, 4. That's a big deal. That's a real big deal. What techniques do you use? Well, we covered 3 above: the myofascial trigger point therapy, the shockwave, the pulsating electromagnetic. And I know we're up against the clock here, so we're going to keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, you let me know. Swedish massage we've talked about before. Sometimes we have to start gentle. We have to get permission. We have to create a communication between all the systems of the body. Then I can gently ease into myofascial release or myofascial trigger point therapy as we go. One of the secret sauce ones that we're talking to about with our patients is infrared. You don't need me to get an infrared pad. What you need is to use your infrared pad consistently in areas of your body, and you'll be shocked at how useful this disruptive modality is, and it gives you the power to start healing yourself. So I have people coming in with knee pain sometimes. So we combine all that, and then we send them home and we say, get an infrared knee pad. And then they wrap it. So within 30 days, the calls come in. I canceled the surgery. I didn't need to do it. Doesn't mean they may not someday. They just didn't need to do it today. And this is another way of empowering people to be able to take control of things. But part of it is showing them and educating them, because there's so much information. And this is definitely one of those things that's out there. You probably start hearing shockwave, the term shockwave, now that's on your radar. And in the future, and you go, oh, that's what Craig does. Yeah, he's talking about that. But in the end, when we're talking about working with people, especially me, I will do whatever it takes. If I have to get up on the table and kneel on the back of your legs and do a Japanese technique, then I'm going to do that. If I need to do muscle energy techniques, that's what I'll do. I have a whole quiver of things to do that I can work my way in to get the results that are necessary. So I would say at least 70 or 80% of the people who come to me, if we don't totally resolve the problem, we get it to a point where maybe we send them to the next level, whatever that may be at that time. Okay.
Wow.
What should I expect during the first session? Oh, we like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. People are, by the time I get them, they're disillusioned, they're tired of sitting in waiting rooms, they're tired of trying drugs, whatever the case may be. Okay. I start out with 3 simple rules when you walk in my door as we go through the intake and talk. And once we get past the point where I ask you what's worked for you in the past, the next thing is, before we start, I have 3 simple rules. Rule number 1, I never have your pain higher than 4 to 5 when I'm working with you. The reason for this, it's a conversation with your body. I come in too heavy, you know what's going to happen? You're going to tighten up and you're going to try to protect your body. That's not the conversation I want to have, okay? And more importantly, you're going to apply these rules when I teach you the self-care techniques for yourself. It allows you to take control of your situation. The second is diaphragmatic breathing.
Mm-hmm.
The more stress a person's in, the more they shallow breathe. The more you shallow breathe, the more you overload different muscles and systems in your body. Shallow breathing should be a short-term response. People turn it into an all-day thing and they're a mess by the end of the day. When I've asked people to take a deep breath, it's, that's a deep breath, okay? The third rule is, in the beginning, when you do your self-care or I'm working with you, I stay on your points a minimum of 30 seconds. I want to send a clear message to the body. It's not under attack, that it can relax and it can let me in to the deeper layers where I can begin to resolve the deeper pain and the deeper issue, particularly from the myofascial trigger point or musculoskeletal dysfunctions. So those are all things. 4 to 10, diaphragmatic breathing, engage in digital pressure. Now, possible sensations you might feel for that during that. Throbbing. Now, when I went to check into this yesterday, there were over 80 different descriptions for pain for people. I'm only giving you more common
a little
ones.
bit.
Yeah. Throbbing, stabbing, aching, burning, blinding, pinching. That one I get the most. Heavy, the body feels heavy.
How about dull?
Yeah. Dull and deep. Yes.
Yeah.
Annoying, exhausting. Exhausting isn't a big surprise. You're trying to push through the day. They're being in pain. Annoying, unbearable. Those are the more common ones that so post-treatment sessions will be sometimes, if I've done my job right, there's going to be minimal. In other words, we stayed at 4 to 5, we worked with the breathing, we did the 30 seconds, but sometimes people are sore. There's some minor bruising, there's fatigue. There may be a temporary of the pain pattern flaring up for a day or two before it finally settles down and begins to resolve. This is why it sometimes takes 2, 3, 4 treatments, because your body wants to go back to something, even if it's not good for it, that it's familiar with, okay? Less common issues, nausea, sometimes headaches. Headaches tend to be reactivated if you've had a history of them, which I did, which is one of the reasons why. Dizziness, sometimes temporarily. Muscle twitches are very common. I'm seeing them more and more in people, but not usually because of us. They usually have a deficiency in magnesium, which has to do with the calcium-magnesium balance in the muscles. When there's an imbalance, it looks like something out of a horror movie. You're twitching in the face or different muscles of the body. And I'm seeing it in kids, younger people more. Are there any risks or side effects should I be aware of? Yes. To ensure, this is why we do the intake form. We talk about being possibly on drug thinning drugs. Bruising can come out of that. So you have to make an adjustment. I'm running into more and more people who are having joint replacement, hips, knees. I have some people walking around with 4 different limbs that where joints have been replaced. We call them the bionic, whatever, people coming in. You want to be aware if somebody's diabetic, or maybe the doctor has indicated that maybe we shouldn't work a specific area. But when everything's about being cautious in the beginning at this point, and if I have any questions, either I stay away from that area for the time being, and we go back and we get clearance from the MD to do that.
Got it.
Okay. How are we doing on time? We okay?
We're good. We're good. I'm just checking because if my next show is late, then we can stay on. Go ahead.
Okay. How many sessions might I need to see results? We talked about that. Realistically, I try to tell people, I demand really that they commit to 3 sessions to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not because I want you to do 3 sessions, because it could take up to that point to really start to break in. And I get, because people are paying out of their pocket, they're worried about money, they're worried, period. Okay. If they can't commit to that, I just say, thank you very much. I would love to work with you, but we're not going to do that, because we're not set up to win in this situation. You're not set up to win in this situation.
No.
I always start the first session at 90 minutes, because as I've spoken about in the past, I want to go through the history. I want to know what worked. I want to know what your story is. I want to establish a relationship, which is going to guarantee that we're going to definitely do much better than you have in the past. And it's going to allow us to overcome challenges as they come along. Okay. Because then I'll get to know what kind of personality, how you communicate, so on and so forth. Are there any specific exercises or stretch? And that's a great question. These are great questions. This is when we get into the self-care part, where we start to design a program specifically for you. It may involve using a back knobber. These are things I will talk about further down the road. We want to maintain any gains you have post-treatment. How do we do that? I show you how. When it begins to reactivate, I show you how to go in there and say, sorry, sister, not today. We're going back to here. So you're doing your own PT, and you're reprogramming your whole body how to respond in the way you want it to be responding, number one. And definitely what is normal for you. You're going back. You're going to learn what normal is. We talked about the heavy or tiring pain when we talked a minute ago. A lot of times when I work with people, the next day, a lot of times they go home and they go to sleep, or they, sleep deeply that night, and they call up, I haven't slept like that in a long time. You have spent a lot of time maintaining and working, getting through a day while managing this pain, and you don't realize, and the longer goes on, that's your reality. That's not what it should be, but it's your reality. And so you get that response in return. I want to be able to teach people how to intervene in their own trigger point activations. And more importantly, at the end of the day, while you're watching TV, you could do your self-care, and you're going to prevent trigger point activation. And I tell people, even if you don't feel anything that day, go do it. Well, when they go in, they begin to feel the beginning of that it could start up. So you're constantly changing your body, particularly based on what you're doing during the day, not to go back into that pain pattern, that muscular pain pattern that's changed your life and brought you to me. So you're no longer victimized by the pain. Okay. So what should I do if I experience increased pain or discomfort after this session? Well, the obvious thing, at least in my case, and I make it clear, reach out to me. I'm going to check on you the day after, and maybe a couple of days after that, because I know from experience, this is a place where I could lose you, or I can make a big difference by reaching out and helping you head off a situation that could turn into something worse temporarily. Remember, we talked about potential soreness 24 to 48 hours. So I always respond as quick as I can. Can this therapy be combined with other treatments? Well, yes, we talked about that. First we have to be clear what the other treatments are. Sometimes I have people coming in doing 4 or 5 different modalities at the same time. And at that point I say, no, I'm not going to be number 6 while you're doing all this. That doesn't make sense, especially if you're paying for it yourself. I will back out and say, I will wait until you have time to measure the responses and results from the other modalities. Timing the MTPs, the myofascial sessions can enhance your physical therapy sessions. So a lot of times it's a PT and I will gang up. I'm going to do them on Thursday. He'll call me at the end of Thursday or send me a text. Andrea needs this, this, and this done. I can't do that. It's not within my domain, but you can. Can you please do this? So there we're back to the synergy again. And we're combining 2 different approaches, which is really good. And I'm always looking for where we can do the synergy. The synergy could be the infrared, using heat, using ice. Synergy is different for different people. And then, of course, we talk about rates. So we'll just talk about mine. My first session is for 90 minutes at $170. Okay, that allows me, if I were to compare this to downtown Chicago, it could easily be twice that, all right? So what I want to do is reach to people who are already in trouble, who are already financially stressed, whose lives are being impacted in a negative way, which, by the way, I draw the people from downtown for a number of reasons. The price is one, the parking, the ease of everything. But the important part is I want to be able to use whatever modality I want, not sit there with a form that says, oh, you're going to charge for this modality, you're going to charge this modality. And oh, by the way, the insurance company may or may not pay for it. It's built in. I can do what I want to do, the things that we talk about doing in order to best serve you and get you to where you want to be. So we talked about, 3 to 5 times as a rule. Follow-up sessions are usually hourly, the next 2 to 3 times, depending on how you progress, $130.
Yeah.
And as I said before, be prepared to do at least 3 sessions. It often takes that long to get the initial results. So any number of things could happen along the way that will change the mix up. Or where we have to send them off temporarily to see somebody else. I have somebody who's spending a ton of money on her teeth, but every time she goes to that tennis, it just activates everything in her face, head, shoulders, and neck. And it's not that we're back down to ground zero, because I've taught her how to take care. But I still have to go in there, and yes, we get it done faster and faster. So a lot of it is situational, of things that you still have to go ahead and do, but they're going to activate your pain. Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I don't know. I want you to meet my friend here.
Yes, I was waiting. Perfect. This is the perfect way to end our show.
Yeah, it's
Banjo Man.
So he activates all the other ones when people come in the door, and there was like
the trickle down effect. Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's crazy. And people just go crazy.
I have the dueling banjo men. They look just like that from Costco. There's 2 of them, and they go back and forth. And
So
I love it.
Him and the witch really get along well.
I'm sure they do. Craig, thank you so much. Tell us how we can reach out to you.
Okay. Thanks. It was fun. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you so much, Craig. Always a pleasure having you here. And for those that want to tune in and reach out to him, please go to the website here. Again, it's CraigQuagliaTriggerPointExpert.com. And Craig is spelled C-R-A-I-G, Quaglia, Q-U-A-G-L-I-A. That's CraigQuagliaTriggerPointExpert.com. Thanks so much. Pleasure having you back. Bye.
You go, girl. Have a good day.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.